There we go, we're live.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Happy
Hello.
to introduce Wes Markin. Start us off with an intro to you and your books. Show off book covers.
Okay. My name's Wes Markin. Pleased to see you all this evening. Some of you might have read some of my books already. Hope you have done. If you haven't, maybe you could in the future. It all started off with DCI Michael York in this book here called One Last Prayer. And you can see Salisbury Cathedral on the front there, because this series is set in Salisbury in Wiltshire. One Last Prayer is a very gripping book about a young boy who goes missing from a school. So he's actually kidnapped while he's in school, which is really interesting and quite a puzzle for the investigators, because with all the cameras there, how do you get a little boy out of a school? So there's a gripping investigation there for DCI Michael York and his team. Now, DCI Michael York is a bit of a team player. He likes to work with his team. He's not bossy. He's a kind man. He's a compassionate man, but he's relentless. So what he ends up doing is, when he's looking for this little boy, is he finds out this little boy has got history with a family that live local in Wiltshire. This family has got a lot of bad history, and it turns out that the kidnapping revolves around that. So it's quite a harrowing journey that for DCI Michael York. Following this book here, I wrote about 5 sequels to it, or 5 more books in the series, and then that accumulated with a second series where I took one of my characters over to America. Now, this is Jake Petman, and D.S. Jake Petman was York's kind of good friend in the Salisbury novels. He actually has to leave Salisbury, has to leave England, actually, for reasons I don't want to disclose just now. But he ends up where his ancestors came from, which is in Maine, America. So he ends up in New England, Maine, America, in a small town called Blue Falls, where his ancestors came from. And here he's trying to find sanctuary. He's trying to find a way out of his problems and the difficulties he's experiencing. But he ends up running into more trouble. Now, Jake is a man for justice, a little bit gung-ho, but a man for justice nonetheless. So he can't turn his back on the problems that are going on in Blue Falls. So we've got a series there of 5 books in which Jake has to deal with some rather harrowing problems in Blue Falls. And that takes me then, fast forward a couple of years, to the latest series, which is being published by Boldwood Books. And the first book is due out at the end of this month, so the 21st of November. And that begins with this book here, The Viaduct Killings. Okay, and it's a series called The Yorkshire Murders. And this actually revolves around one of the characters in the DCI York books too. Her name is DCI Emma Gardner, and she is seconded up north to Yorkshire. Now, I am northern myself, but I'm from Manchester, actually, not Yorkshire. However, at the moment, I reside in Knaresborough, near Harrogate. So I've relocated my favourite detectives there. As you can see, that's the viaduct over the River Nid, which many tourists come to Knaresborough to look at from the castle. So I decided to put the body of the first victim behind the castle keep. When the body is discovered, then the detectives and the police get a lovely view of the viaduct there. So that's where the name came from. Now, it's a really gripping. Thanks, Donna. It's a really gripping story. Okay, very fast paced, and it involves really, I think, it's a bit of a fish out of water tale, because what you've got a southern detective, a southerner, very pragmatic, like maybe her boss, DCI Michael York, in the first books that I talked about before. But she's going to meet another character, a Detective Inspector Paul Riddick, who's got a lot of demons, he's got a lot of problems of his own. Press don't like him, can't tell you why, but they're hounding him, they're all over him. The people he works with don't like him. He's got a history. but he's going to be Emma Gardner's deputy senior investigating officer. So they're going to have to learn to get on, whereas he's quite a direct man who will rush to get to the secrets no matter the consequences. She's more measured, more pragmatic. So we've got an interesting dynamic between these two characters. But then we have we have a blossoming friendship as well. And I think this friendship is going to form the core of the entire series, okay, of which I've got 6 books in mind. The second one is actually written already. That's with Boldwood at the moment, just being approved by the editors. So it's going to be their friendship that's going to form the core of these murder mysteries. And I hope that the readers enjoy them, because I've put a lot of time and a lot of my heart into these particular books. And I think one of the things I've tried to do as well is I've tried to be a bit different from the other books as well. I've tried to focus this time more on place, more on the soul of the characters, and try to work the story out from the emotion of the characters rather than working in from the crime itself. So hopefully that will go well. I hope that was an all right introduction and I didn't go on too long there, guys.
Good introduction.
Okay.
So Leslie has said hello.
Hello, Leslie. Yeah, Leslie's read my books as well. So hello, Leslie. She beat to read.
Tony said hello.
Thanks, Sam. Is
Laura
the milk? I can see Donna on there.
Yeah, she's asked you if the Malcolm in the Viaduct killings is a nod to Mr. Hollinger.
No, he's not. He's not in it. Although he was lingering. Malcolm Hollinger was lingering around Knaresborough, I think, last week. I didn't manage to see him because I was working, though I know Malcolm anyway. But he was lingering. There were a few posters up of him around my local area, so that was a bit odd, seeing Malcolm's face looking at me in the local library. But I didn't see him in person while he was here. I saw him a couple of months ago, but not yesterday, the other day.
Kim and Mills Pixie have also said hello.
Hello, there's Tony as well there.
And
hi, Tony.
Hello, Mills. It probably is Mills. She said it's going to result in her buying more books, isn't it?
Hope so, yeah. No. We'll have to see. I know everyone's got a very big to be read pile. It seems to be a lot of people tell me on Facebook that to be read pile is kind of up here. Yeah, and so's mine, but I never get time to ever go near the to be read pile.
You don't want to see my to be read pile.
Because I'm always writing.
The corner of my eye, and it's not good. There are multiple piles. Sam wants to know how difficult it is writing about the UK and America. There must be a lot of things to
about writing about.
How different is it writing about the UK and America?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so for the UK, it's an interesting story actually, because with Boldwood books in particular, they were interested in the York books initially. However, I was quite happy with how I was doing self-publishing at that time. So I've kept the York books as kind of my sort of personal self-publishing journey. And they asked me if I'd write another British series for them. This was when they were starting out a couple of years ago. I think it was just around the time probably Ross Greenwood and the others maybe signed for them. And I had this saga in my head with Jake Petman, who is my sort of, he's not Jack Reacher, okay? He's big, he's tall, but he's tall and he's a bit gung-ho, and he can't sometimes control his emotions, and he can't control his behaviour. He has DCI Michael York to do that for him. It's almost like he keeps a tight leash on Jake Petman. But Jake Petman gets himself in situations, I think, that he needed a break from the UK, but I didn't want to stop writing about him. And I just thought, I was reading a lot of books around America at that time and around New England and Maine, and seeing the way that a lot of people, from our country were over there and so forth. And I thought, what if he had some ancestors there, and it was like a place of refuge for him to go to. So I created a fictional town called Blue Falls, in Maine, New England. And I send Jake over there, and Jake tries to blend in. Well, he can't really blend in because he's got a very British accent, obviously, but he tries to keep a low profile. But the problem with Jake is he can't keep a low profile. So when another child goes missing in that book as well, actually, that's one of his driving forces, actually, with Jake. It's almost like crimes against adults. It's not that he can cope with it, but he can control his emotions. When it's crimes against children, he has a lot of issues. He has a lot of control issues. It's one of his driving forces, and that happens in Blue Falls. So that's the nature of the killing pit. What's happening in the killing pit. But in terms of writing, so back to the question, Sam, sorry, I've just gone around, gone everywhere, but to your question, what I was trying to get at was, could I write American? Because when I suggested this book to Boldwood, they were like, no, we want you to write, but you've got a very British voice, we want you to write British. I said, okay, fine, I understand that, but I want to do these books. So I went off on my own. This was about a year and a half ago. Carried on self-publishing. Did these Jake Petman books, and I love the journey and everything. And I got myself an American editor who's from New England as well to really help me with the dialogue. So I was in a lot of conversation with him. He was editing all the work that I was doing to make sure that it was authentic to the area. But I kept Jake's very distinctive British voice in the way he spoke, his dialogue and his thought processes. But then all the other characters around him, I tried to sort of give an American feel to. So that fish out of water that I talked about with Emma Gardner coming up north from the south, I wanted to keep that fish out of water element, Jake Petman as well. Now, so in terms of writing in America, yes, it was a challenge to begin with, but by about book 2, I was kind of felt that I was getting into my stride, and the support from the editor, Brian Buon, it was just second to none. And and I would have kept going, actually. Well, I probably will keep going at some point with the J books. But then the calling came again to write in England, and I thought, well, I've already wrote in the south of England, so I was living in Salisbury at the time, and now I'm living in the north of England, and I am northern, so why not write about the north? And then I kind of brought Emma Gardner up here because I just thought that she would just be a great person to look around and say, things are different here, and I'm going to do what my old mentor, DCI Michael York, did, and just try and keep control of this fella here, who really is a little bit off the rails. So I'm back in England. So I asked Boldwood, I said, you know what, I'm back in England now with my writing. Are you interested? And the rest is history. And they're putting out 6 books. They're going to do all 6, and they're doing the first one at the end of November. The second one February next year, and then the one after, I think in April or May. And then I'm going to take a little break, do another York book, and then I'm going to go back and do the final 3 books in that series for them. So that really is the journey, and a weird journey, because like Sam was saying, how did I end up in America? And I just did. And I hope it works. Some of my readers seem to think that they work. I know Donna quite liked them. She thought they were very tame, didn't you, Donna? You didn't. They can be a little bit gruesome. They can be a little bit gruesome at times, and they're quite shocking. But then a lot of crime fiction isn't it? I guess. So I hope that answered your question, Sam. It did take me about half an hour, but I think I kind of got there in the end.
Well,
Sorry, go on.
Well, we're on the gruesome. The York books are very gruesome. Are very gruesome in places, aren't they?
They are, and I have to blame my father for that, because growing up, his sense of his censorship was horrendous. I used to be able to watch whatever I wanted, and it was just crackers. I would never do that with my own kids. So I think I grew up on a diet of crime almost. And I remember almost at the age of sort of 9 or 10, already being a ferocious reader and reading Stephen King books, reading Dean Koon books, And one thing led to another, and I guess basically what's happened is my creative drive maybe has been inspired by those kind of earlier episodes in my life. So yes, there is some grim stuff in these books, yeah, definitely. But I like to think as well that I've got the heart of the characters in the book, and I'm driving the books forward with the characters and keeping the reader on the side of the characters.
Where do you think the line is for sort of too grim?
I don't know. I get told by some people that the line's been crossed. Some people, I mean, what's interesting, I suppose, with the new ones, the violent killings, is there's no gore. There's no gore in it. There's no gore in the sequel at all. There's no violence really. And I think Leslie read it, I think as a beta reader. I think she's on here, and she was saying, well, yeah, this will not offend anyone, at all. And I was thinking, okay, great, yeah. But I still people are still reading it and still saying that, the subject matter is very dark, it's very emotional, it's very passionate, I'm feeling very, very distraught, sad for some of the characters. So I think ultimately for me, I think the one thing that I want to do more than anything is just elicit an emotional response out of the audience for the characters, and everything else is secondary. So if there's gore in it, that's just a secondary device I'm using to get an emotional response to what's happening with my characters. If I'm really looking at the place, so in Salisbury, I look at the cathedral. I do a bit of work with not Stonehenge, but around those kind of mystical stones that you kind of get around Wiltshire and stuff. I did a bit of work with them. I did a bit of work with Aztec mythology, but there's all this different stuff that I tried to do. But what I'm ultimately driving towards is you being with the character. Now, I might have had in the past readers talk to me about it being gory or whatever, but one thing that I always find that people always come back to me with is they like the characters. They root for the characters, they're with the characters. And I do know that when I wrote Christmas with the Conduit, which was the final book it will not be the final book in the York series now, but at the time, Christmas with the Conduit, there was some really shocking scenes in that. People were saying, they were quite heartbroken about certain characters and so forth. So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't really know where the line is. I just kind of do it, and then I might get told. But I have read worse than I've written. I've read far worse, and I know there's authors out there that, I don't know if Donna will agree, but I know there's authors out there that I think are gorier than me. But
Donna says you don't have a line. Is there something you wouldn't write about though?
Wes doesn't have a line. Don't know. Now I think I've changed a bit because of my readership. So I think I listen to my readers as well, and I look at what they like and what they enjoy most about my work, and I maybe try and focus on some of those things. I think, is there a lot? I don't know. I can't answer that question. Well, what did you think when you read it, Kaz? You can be honest.
Well,
which one did you read? The first, One Last Prayer, didn't you?
I read One Last Prayer, and it's well written, and it was very good. And I thought your plot was exciting and interesting, but it was too gory for me.
And some people will agree with that, definitely.
But then I like things like Richard Coles's books.
But I think you'll probably like the new one. It's
nice and cozy, and like grandmas solving crimes and stuff.
No, well, that's
my speed.
They're not cozy. I think initially I thought, could I write something more cozy? But I don't know. I don't know. People might think that this is definitely more cozy than what I've written before, which great. If that brings new readers into the fold, I think one of the things I thought with the York and Jake books is it'd be nice for there to be something for everyone. And I mean, maybe sometimes with my books, maybe there's a bit of Marmite in there. Sometimes maybe they're a little bit too going too far. But then, saying that, like, I think Donna just mentioned Chris Carter there, and I've read a few of his books. And again, there's a massive readership in his stuff. It's gorier than mine. I would say.
Laura said dark and gory. She's in.
Yeah, well, that's it. You see,
Mills likes a bit of gore.
Marmite. It's Marmite.
Leslie's telling me I like the viaduct thing. I'm quite enjoying the adorable discussion about TBR files as well, because Mills has got about 4 books on hers apparently, and Laura is still in the sort of baby phases to mine because she says she's got 100 on hers, and I reckon mine is easily over that.
I know it's hard, isn't it? And then how do you decide what to read? It's very difficult because you go on those forums, and I go on those forums as well and have a look around. And the people are recommending different books all the time, but you see everyone's different, aren't they? And everyone responds in a different way to every single book, which I think is what makes them so exciting. I know full well that some people have picked up our books and gone, loved it 5-star, and I also know some people have picked up books and gone, oh my god, I couldn't cope with that. So, but I think that's the exciting thing about books, really, isn't it? It's the exciting thing about art in general, that we've all got such different tastes and wants in what we read. And I think what I want to do is I want to try and do things differently. I want to try different things all the time. And I think DCI York for me, you see, was police procedural meets relatively gory. Like Mo Hader, she's a good example. She was very good. And series on TV like Luther, for example, it's very, very hard and gritty, and that's the kind of what I wanted to capture with DCI York.
You definitely do that with it.
Yeah.
Sam said it's good though. She said Marmite promotes discussions and makes people want to try it.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, no doubt what I'm going to get, and I know this is going to happen when the Viaduct Killings comes out, is I know I'm going to get people that are going to be disappointed that they've been reading my other books and they're going to be, hang on a minute, why have I not been horrified here? That might happen, and well, I'm sure it will happen. I already know of a couple of beta readers that have read it and gone, yeah, I really like that book, but when's Lacey coming back? Lacey was a character and she is in One Last Prayer. She's in the first book. Now she's one of my she's not a protagonist, she's an antagonist because she's a female serial killer, but she is a reoccurring character in the DCI York books and the Jake Petman books, and people love her. And the amount of emails that I've had asking me to write a series around Lacey is unbelievable. But again, that would be a very gruesome, I would imagine, very gruesome, very horrifying series, and yet people are asking for that. So obviously some people want that, and I imagine that what will happen with the Viaduct is I'll probably get the other way around. So I'll probably get a lot more people saying, I love it because it's just right for me. It's not too hard, it's not too gentle. But then I'm sure I'll get some people who say, oh, bring back Lacey, could you bring back Jake Petman, in the middle of nowhere with some really sort of interesting characters, some very, very, very interesting characters over in America in sort of the middle of nowhere. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I'm loving the random debate going on about Marmite, and
I know. Well, I think
people wanting tiny book piles, which Donna's lying and saying she dreams of tiny TBR pile. Donna has the same problem probably as me and Sam do, in that we buy all the books that we want to read, but unless we schedule the authors in for our author chats, we're probably not going to read them.
Yeah, well, it's hard though. It is very busy. It's a very, very busy market. There's a lot of books there, and I think there was kind of like a time about sort of 10 years ago where it was kind of new, I think, well, not new, but there was a lot of new self-published authors coming out, I think, around Bloodhound and then them kind of times. It was very it was a lot easier to get read then, and now I think it's a lot more competitive, and there's a lot. I think Amazon really has opened the door to people to put their own work out there. And you have to work at market. It's not just about writing a good book, is it? It's about the marketing. It's about communicating with your fans. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's extremely time consuming as well, Kaz, which is why Bold would have been a bit of a lifesaver for me, to be honest, because having to promote the DCI York books and promote the J books, and now having to move on and promote the Yorkshire Murders book, it would have been one step too far for me. You know, so I'm really fortunate. I think that I've got this opportunity, and I know this publishing company have done well for some of the other authors that you probably know as well. So I'm quite excited about it. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Sam says, where in Manchester did you grow up? She's in Salford.
No,
she's not in Salford. She grew up in Salford. Your accent.
Well, when I tell you where I'm from, you're going to say that's not Manchester, because that's what everyone always said. And I suppose technically, well, I don't know. It's Stockport anyway. Well, that's in Greater Manchester. That's what I'm going to say there. So, and you know what? It was only 3 miles to Manchester city centre, 3 or 4 miles on the bus as well. But every time I went anywhere, university or anywhere else in the country, like, that's not from Manchester. I consider it Manchester. I don't know what you think.
It's all the wrong side of the Pennines for me. I'm
well, I'm on the other side now, aren't I? I'm on the same side as you. So, which is lovely. I love it over here. It's fantastic. It's really nice. There. So Sam says it's fine. You can.
Sam says it's fine.
Thank you, Sam. So I suppose that the one thing I've not written a book. I've not written any books back in Manchester.
In your hometown, I know.
Quite like the rural element though of my books. I quite like it's like that in Salisbury, and it's like that in the J books. It's definitely going to be like in the Viaduct Killings, where you've got I don't know, the city life maybe doesn't appeal to me as much in the books. I kind of like the quirky characters that go with a rural setting. Do you know what I mean? That kind of, there's people can be very different from these kind of places to what we're used to. And there's a lot of quirks and eccentricities, and I really like to play on them in books as well. So, but I'm never say never. Manchester city centre one day maybe, we'll see.
Or Stockport.
Or Stockport, yeah. Although that might be too odd to write a book in the place I grew up. I don't know. I might do. Well, we'll see. If I ever get the time. At the moment, that seems unlikely, but you never know.
Sam has asked how you balance life, work, reading. She says,
oh dear. Well, my other job is teaching. So I'm a secondary English teacher. I work for a trust actually, and I'm an ex-head of English, head of department in English, and I go around schools in the north of England to try and help the departments who were maybe short-staffed or maybe got inexperienced staff or maybe just struggling generally, because teaching is quite a hard job these days in terms of even getting bodies in front of the children is just really hard these days. So that was my full-time job, but since I've been writing, it's been my part-time job. So I work 3 days a week and write 2 days a week. Although the writing is work as well, so I work 3 days on that and I work 2 days on the writing. And then after Christmas, I should hopefully, all going well, swap that around. So it'll be 3 days writing and 2 days in my other job. In the future, the thing is, I've had this discussion quite a number of times with quite a number of people about what do I want? Do I want to be a full-time writer? Do I just want to write? And could I do that? And yeah, I probably could. And it sounds nice in a way, but I feel that in order to get life experience, you've got to get away from the computer. You've got to get away. You've got to get out there. And one of the things that I do find, job that I've got, is I do go into a lot of schools and I meet a lot of people and teach a lot of children in our current society, which is very, very open, but it opens your mind, let's just say, and you learn a lot. And I think, would I learn a lot behind the computer 5 days a week? Probably not. I'd probably write more books. And would they be of the same quality? Yeah, maybe, but I think I would maybe stop developing as a person. So you're a teacher as well, Cass, so you know exactly where I'm coming from. So if you want to jump in and say,
I
yes, I
do.
totally agree with you.
It's not a job you can leave behind, is it, either, teaching?
No, and double that, it's exhausting. So I've got,
You say you work for like
yeah,
5 days or 3 days or whatever, but you don't.
my life is right. My life is one constant frenzy of work, whether it be teaching, writing, advertising, or whatever. And then I've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old as well, and it's tough. But I'm really great at the same time. I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that something I've always wanted to do, which is write, I've been able to do. And it's such a weird way it happened as well, because I wrote One Last Prayer ages ago. I mean, it wasn't even the first one, actually. The first one was The Repenting Serpent, which is the sequel. And I wrote that like 10 years ago. And I showed it someone. I was living in Thailand at the time. I was actually teaching in Thailand. So this is more than 10 years ago now. This was like 12, 13 years ago. And I showed it someone that I was working with in Thailand, and they liked it, they loved it, but I didn't know what to do with it. I think I sent it to a few publishers online, but nothing really ever came of it. And I just kind of put it away on the shelf and just forgot about it. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, that person got in touch with me again that I'd not seen for 6, 7 years. His name is Jake Lynch. If you're watching this, hello, Jake. And his wife had just won. And it was such a strange story, but his wife had just won the Kindle Storyteller Award, Hannah Lynn, for what her book Walter Augustus, The Life and Times of Walter Augustus. So he said to me, "Oh, I remember, I remember you from Thailand." Obviously, we do, because we had a few drinks together as well. It wasn't just about the book. But he says, "I remember the book as well, and I'm just really interested to know what you did with it." And I was like, "Nothing." And he was like, "Well, have you thought about self-publishing? Because I've been doing it with my wife, and she just won a competition, and she's doing okay." And he's the one that started it all off, really. And I'd already written another book by that time, which was One Last Prayer. So I had these 2 books, One Last Prayer and The Repenting Serpent. And he said, "Well, which one would you do first?" And I said, "Probably this one, One Last Prayer, the one you read, Kaz. And then the sequel could be The Repentant Serpent." And I reworked them, and the rest is history. And then he showed me how to release them on Amazon. He showed me how to set up a mailing list. He showed me how to do a bit of marketing. And that was about 3 years ago. And the rest is kind of history. And I feel very fortunate. It's like a circumstance, that, isn't it? Because I think if he hadn't got in touch with me, that 3 years ago, just some random Facebook message, it'd probably still be sitting on the shelf, and I wouldn't be doing this, and I'd still be working 5 days a week teaching, which I love, but I wouldn't be doing what I've always wanted to do since I was a child, which is write books. So very grateful, although my life is chaos at the same time, as you know, because you got an interview cancelled on Wednesday, which I'm really sorry about. It's one of my kids' fault. But anyway,
I had a nice relaxing evening, it's fine. Sam wants to know, as a teacher, if you've got any tips for encouraging a teen back into reading.
Oh, good. It's like my job. Well, first of all, it's confidence, first of all. The thing is, it depends upon the stage that you've got problems with. If it's phonetic, then you've got to go back to basics and you've got to teach them to read. But if it's not phonetic and it's just boys, I mean, boys are an issue with reader reluctance. I think it's about genre. I think it's about genre more than anything. Knowing that genres exist for everyone. I mean, yourself, like, we'll go on Facebook now, and we think we in our world would think everyone loves crime, but they don't. It's only because we're on our crime forums and everyone loves crime. I go out to work and I might speak to 10 people, and only one of them will like crime books, or only 2 of them will like crime books. So, it's about finding the right the right genre for yourself. So what we tend to do a lot with younger students is we try to introduce them to a range of genres, whether that be fantasy, whether that be sci-fi, or whether it be crime, although a lot more toned down. They don't really mind, don't worry. They don't even know, it's a secret. Because my name is actually Wes Fletcher Markin, so that's what they call me at school, Mr. Fletcher Markin, so they can't find me on Amazon. It's very, very clever. But they've got different genres that we give them. Comedy, lots of children love David Walliams books, for example, Roald Dahl books, which are very funny. And it's about finding the right book for everybody. And I think once you get that, that can be the catalyst then to go, oh, do you know what? I read that book. It made me laugh. Hated reading, but I'll give another one a go. And before they know it, they get onto the train, don't they? And I tell you what is a really good book for getting lots of readers is that Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't know if you've read that. Probably not. But there's a series of books about a diary of a wimpy kid in America, and the kids, a lot of the boys from a very young age, tend to really latch onto that particular book. So that's good.
Well, the kids in Diary of a Wimpy Kid are awful.
The kids are awful, I know, yeah. That's why they like them, isn't it?
They're awful.
They're horrible to each other, but that's why the kids like them. But it's anything to get them into reading, Kaz, you see, so anything.
My one question was actually going to be how you managed to do all your author marketing and stuff and keep it separate from your teaching life, because it's so hard, as you all know, to keep your social media kind of locked down and hidden. But then I would imagine doing that, but also
most of the kids I teach, tend to be GCSE students. I used to teach a lot of younger students, but the last couple of years it's been mainly tending to be focused around 15, 16-year-olds. And to be honest with you, like outside of their own lives, they're not, or each other, they're not massively interested in what their middle-aged teacher is up to. So in that regard, I don't get people kind of researching me. But I have had a few instances where other members of staff have told the children. Now, what's interesting about that is that what's interesting actually is with the other members of staff, and you say that there's a line in my books, but a lot of other members of staff that I work with have read my books, and people that don't read crime and don't like violence and have read all the books, which I find crazy. So I think people can cope with them really, Kaz. I think you could easily get through all 6 of them if you wanted to. But anyway, so they and then so one of the kids did find out, and I'm just kind of, but I don't know if anything really came of it. I hope that she didn't read it. One the 15-year-old. But there is warnings on Amazon. It does say 18. Although saying that, the new ones I wouldn't mind so much because there's no swearing in them. There's not really any swearing in them. There's not really any blood in them. Not much. And so hopefully, if a 15-year-old was to read that, I don't think it'd be too bad. Not that I'm going to go and advertise it around, just in case.
Donna says one of her new favourite questions is, did you give any of your series characters a quirk in the early books that you later regretted?
A quirk that I later regretted? Well, I don't regret it, but then I think what happens, so for Gardner, for example, she's obsessed with Tic Tacs. I don't know why, don't ask me why. So, whereas you've got kind of the old-fashioned detective just chain smoking, for Gardner, when she's nervous or she's anxious, she'll start popping Tic Tacs. And I think that, I found that quite quirky in the earlier York books. And then I kind of thought, I'll have to bring in this idea of eating Tic Tacs again. And I probably sort of strayed away from it a little bit in the later York books. But I kind of reintroduced it in the Viaduct Killers, and it's in the second one as well. And now I'm kind of thinking, do I really want to, can she not get addicted to something else? But then her partner's an alcoholic, so I don't want her to be an alcoholic as well. So I might just have to stick with Tic Tacs for the time being. But she does go through a lot of Tic Tacs as well. They're okay, fresh breath, and they're only 1 calorie, aren't they? So okay. Yeah.
Apparently, the teen devoured Diary of a Wimpy Kid a few years ago. Apparently, Dogman and things like
Yeah,
Tiger and Monkey or Tiger and Bunny
my
or
son
something.
loves Dogman. He's a reluctant reader, you see. He's only 9 and he loves Dogman as well. And that is crackers. I don't know if you've read that. It's a bit of a comic book, but I don't have issues with comic books because I used to read comic books as well. I don't mind kids reading comic books and still reading. It's just a shortcut, isn't it? They don't have to read as much description. And he loves Dogman. He loves it.
So if you like comic books, now is the time for me to ask you my favourite question, which is, would you get one of your books developed into a graphic novel?
You know, it's an interesting question. I have read a lot of graphic novels actually, and I've been reading The Sandman recently. Actually, Neil Gaiman one, and there's a series, isn't there, on Netflix? I haven't seen the series yet, so I'm rereading the comic books first, and then I'll go back and watch the series. I suppose my books at the moment would be very dark. You could almost imagine them a bit noir, couldn't you? Maybe a little bit black and white. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but there's some quite dark comic books, isn't there, in crime? If you
there's
think
loads, yeah. They're very very violent as well. And this is the other thing as well. I mean, I've just read this comic book as well, called Sweet Tooth, and that was a program on Netflix. Now the program on Netflix wasn't gruesome at all, but then this comic book, was just unbelievably gruesome. That's why I don't know. Sometimes it seems to me that the people always say, "Oh, your books can be quite violent." It's like, for me, the media seems quite violent anyway. I mean, I watched that series on Netflix. Is it Netflix or Amazon Prime called The Boys? I don't know if you've seen that. It's really gruesome. About superheroes. That's really gruesome, isn't it?
That's based on a Garth Ennis comic, isn't it? And he is notoriously gruesome because he wrote Preacher, which is ridiculously gory as well.
Yeah, precisely. So sometimes I think when somebody says, "Oh, yeah, you've got this one scene in your book that's quite gruesome, and then you had a second scene in your book that's quite gruesome, so you've got 2 gruesome scenes," and I think, hang on a minute, that program I watched last night for 1 hour had about 50 gruesome scenes in it. It was only an hour long. So sometimes that's why I think I struggle, going back to your question about the line. It's difficult because I think I'm desensitized to it anyway. I think I've seen that much on TV and read that many books now that it kind of just happens naturally. And but I have made a conscious effort. I think with some of the later stuff, just to maybe just bring it back, just to see if how the readers respond. Because I'm just too curious. I'm too curious to know, will the readers I already have like it like that? Won't they like it like that? Or will I get new readers who like it and then maybe try the gorier stuff and think, "Oh, do you know what? I'm get into that as well." I like to play around a bit and just see what happens as well. I find it quite exciting.
So we've not covered how you know our lovely Kath. Our excellent admin who highly recommends you.
Yeah.
How did you come across that?
Do you know what? She edits Hannah Lynn's books as well, although she reads an early draft of Hannah's books as well and helps her with her editing. But that wasn't how I met her. Do you know what? I'm thinking back and back and back. How did I meet her? I think a long time ago, Kath will probably correct me here. My memory's awful, by the way. So Kath, sorry. But I think a while ago I put like a sort of feeler out. Does anyone want to, look at my book kind of thing? Before I was established in any way. And I think Kath came back and said, "Oh, I'll have a look at it." And then she tore it to pieces. Yeah, with the good like grammatically and all the rest of it. But that was brilliant because she has given me fantastic feedback for all the York books and all the Jade books, and just basically just corrected loads of mistakes for me. And now I don't make those mistakes anymore. That's not true, but she's there anyway, so I can send it to her. She's read the Viaduct Killings as well, although now I have an editor anyway that Goldwood Supply. But I think they were surprised at how easy it was, and I think that was potentially because Kath had a look at it first. Yeah.
Kath
So
writes
cheers, yous.
as well.
What?
Have you read Kath's books? Kath writes.
Do you know what? It's really bad. I haven't. And the thing is, though, it's like I'm on a promise to read people's books. I think the last, right, so a couple of years ago when I'm going to read Kath's book. Kath, I promise I'm going to read it. You can tell me which one, and I'm going to read it.
Oh, I'm trying to see if I can see my copy of it.
Tell me which one, I'm going to read it. I'm going to write it down now. I'm going to make, because you're right, it is.
Yeah, wait, Kath is great. Flesh of the Trees is my favourite Kath Middleton book.
Which one? The Kath. What's it?
It's called Flesh of the Trees.
Flesh of the Trees.
Flesh of the Trees is my favourite one of Kath. And I'm trying to see if I can see my copy of it, but I can't.
Definitely going to read that one.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
And I tell you what happened. I'm really bad because what happens is you meet so many other writers, and what they do is like everyone feels like. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, I met Malcolm Hollandrake and Rob Ashman for the first time at the Crime Festival. This was before COVID, so this was about 3 or 4 years ago at the Theakston Crime Festival. I met Rob Ashman and Malcolm Hollandrake there, and now I'm good friends with them as well. And I actually, I went away and read a couple of Rob's books, which again are very gruesome. And so like, but then like I've got so busy writing books over the last couple of years that I've had not just anyone I know, just like I've hardly read any books, which is such a shame because I love reading. And I read 3 of Rob's books, I think. I really enjoyed them. And then it was like, right, okay, I've read 3 of Rob's books now. I need to read a couple of Malcolm's books. And I still haven't read any of Malcolm's books, which is, again, and he's a friend. So, but I'm going to read Kath's because you know what? Because Kath has, honestly, she's done so much for me in terms of the editing. So I'm going to buy that. Flesh of the Trees.
Flesh of the Trees is my all-time favourite of hers.
Yeah, and she can
one of those that stays with you. I think Sam's put the Amazon link on. My question I've asked everybody, all of my author chats so far this year, is what's been your favourite read of the year?
Right, so there's not many. That's what I'm trying to think now because is that one I've definitely read. I did read a J.D. Kirk book that I enjoyed because I know he's quite popular, so I read him. Rachel McLean, I read a book by her. It was quite good. I'm trying to think what my favourite is. I've read a couple of M.W. Craven's books because again, he's popular. And I enjoyed them. I don't want to say now which one I like best because they might see that I enjoyed them all. Let me try and find a right probably to this community. What have I read over the last? I read a book. Do you know what? I like some American noir crime as well. Have you ever heard of James Ellroy?
Mm-hmm.
So I quite like some James Ellroy. I tell you what, I read a Mo Hader book as well this year called The Treatment, and I enjoyed that. That was a very good book. Really sticks in my mind as being a book I really enjoyed. And I'll tell you which writer I like, but I haven't read him in a couple of years. Is that David Mitchell? I don't know if you've heard of David Mitchell. He wrote Cloud Atlas. I find them books like really, really good as well. But I'm not going to pick a favourite crime one on here because that's not. I'm not going to do that.
I have a weird mixed bag with David Mitchell. like Stephen King. I kind of really, really like some of his books, or I don't finish them.
He's written so many though, hasn't he? And I've read so many of his books, and there was a time when they maybe stopped being as good. Then all of a sudden they got really good again. So he's like really. I can't remember now. Ages ago, it was up to about Bag of Bones or something, and I was thinking, "Oh, right, I've had enough now. I've had enough of Stephen King. Read all his books. I've had enough now." And then I said, but I've got to carry on because it's Stephen King. So I carried on reading them. I said, no, I've got to stop now. I'm not enjoying them anymore. And then they got amazing again, didn't they? And then there was that, is it the Mercedes Killer? There was like a trilogy with Bill Hodges in it. Really enjoyed that trilogy he wrote as well. So, but he writes loads, doesn't he? Every year, definitely.
Sam says you have to not think of your favourite author, you think of your favourite book, it makes it easier.
Well, I already said the other day that my favourite, but I tell you what, my favourite book of all time is, and I don't know if anyone's read it, it's like a John Irving book called The World According to Garp. I just loved that book when I was younger. It was just amazing. It was just such a quirky, weird story. And that just sticks in my mind as a book I really love. If you had to ask me my favourite crime book that I've ever read, it would probably be a Thomas Harris one. I've read, when I read those Hannibal books, they were incredible. I thought they were unbelievable. Have you read them?
I've read Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable book. And this Hannibal I thought was brilliant as well. So in terms of crime, maybe them.
Mindhunter, like the non-fiction book that's based on the people. Like the people who sort of Mindhunter is based on, advised from Harris.
That series on Netflix, Mindhunters, that was good. That I saw that as well. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I do like stuff like that. I like them when they're into
that's really good.
Yeah, I like that because they're interviewing the serial killers in it, and I really like that because it's interesting. I like to have an interview with the serial killer in some of my books as well. I quite like doing those. So yeah, I found that fascinating. That was a really, really good book. A good series, that one I saw. I haven't read the book. Heard the book's good though.
So I'm just checking I've not missed any questions. You've written so many books already. How long does each one take? Do you think about what will happen before you start to write?
So I've written, I think when I worked it out, it was about, because remember 2 of them were already written before I started doing this. And then since then, so altogether, how many books were written? So I've got 6, 11, 13 books. I've written 13 books. So that's 11. It's about three a year. So over the last, so maybe over 4 years, I've written three a year over 4 years. So obviously I enjoy it, so that's good. I know there's people out there that seem to be writing more though. There are definitely people release more books than I do, surely. Some of them. So I've seen J.D. Kirk, he got a lot of books out in a short space of time, didn't he? So I don't know.
Sam's got a 3 a year kind of question mark, which I'm interpreting as shocked.
I'd like to write more, but I don't have any more time. I think
if you've got time for 3 a year.
I know. I don't know. But I will. So if I went full time, I could do 5 a year. That's a lot, isn't it? There are people on there that I'm sure there are people out there that on these crime forums that I've seen that produce more books than I do.
Do you have quite a regimented writing routine then to get through that much in a year?
Well, I have the 2 days off a week, so that's 2 6-hour shifts because I have to take the kids to school and pick them up. So that's 12 hours. So 12 hours a week, and then maybe a couple of hours at the weekend if I'm lucky. So 15 hours, 16 hours, 17 hours a week. Does that enough? And then probably write a draft in a couple of months, and then second draft in a month, and then let Kath make it better. Something like that. Or people like, yeah. So yeah, I'd like to write more. I don't feel, I think when I start planning a book, I think I have an idea for a book, and I start with the idea, and then I start planning. I find that the idea evolves pretty quickly, and I can have 2, 3 full days just really going through what I'd love to do with this story. And then when I start writing it, and the characters actually start living, and the plot changes a little bit as you go along, And then when I read it through for the second draft, I think, oh, well, I now know how it ends, definitely. And I now know that happens. So actually, this would have happened a little bit differently here. So then I change some things as I go through. And then it's strange because by the time you've finished your second draft, it probably doesn't look much like the plan. But the plan was quite exciting to begin with. And I think if I didn't write the plan first, I'd probably get really nervous. Think, oh, what if I hit a point where I don't know what to do? So the great thing about having a plan is you've kind of got like a safety net. So you're never going to get up. So if you got up in the morning, for example, and think, oh, I feel a bit tired today, or I might not know what to write, you might panic and not write anything. Just go to your plan and it's a safety net. So I like to do a bit of planning first. I know some people like to say, oh, they have a dream and then they wake up and then they write a story. That's not what I did. I tend to plan them a little bit first.
You've got 4 minutes left.
4 minutes. What would you like to know?
Well, Mills Pixie has already said she's bought One Last Prayer.
Brilliant. Well, and it's on offer. It's on offer at the moment. So well spotted.
Make sure you drop the offer into the group after the chat with my permission. Give us a reminder. So while Mills is still watching and maybe free on the Amazon button, give us a reminder of anything else that you want people to go off and buy.
I'd love it if people pre-ordered or at least, because I know some of you got Killing Unlimited, haven't you? I would love it if you read the Viaduct Killings, just because I think I wouldn't say it was a departure for me. I know Donna's read it already. I wouldn't say it was a departure for me, but it's different. And when I was releasing like the last J book and I was releasing the 5th York book and 6th York book, I kind of knew how people would respond to it because it's similar to the other books that I've written before. But this one's a bit different, and I genuinely just have no idea how it's going to be received. I know some people are saying to me, oh, it's fantastic. But then people have said that about the York books, and then some people have liked it and some people haven't. So I have no idea how it's going to be received. Donna will know. What do you think, Donna? Do you think it's going to be okay? She's probably gone. She gone?
I don't know. It'll be okay.
So hopefully, we'll see, won't we? We'll see.
You've got quite a lot of following. So
brilliant.
Have you got any other plans for the launch of the Viaduct Killings? Any other awesome things lined up?
I am going to. I've got a poster here actually. So in my local area, Knaresborough, I've hired out. I don't know if is that coming through or backward.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that fine? Mm-hmm. So it's just on my screen. It's coming through. So basically, in Knaresborough, where I live and where it's set, it's in a pub. Effectively, I've not even hired the pub out, but they've let me have the top floor, and I'm going to order loads of books in, and people can come and grab signed copies. And also my narrator should be coming as well for the audiobooks, Aubrey. So if Aubrey's watching this, I hope he's still coming, although I'll best message him after this and check he is still coming, so I haven't spoken to him in ages. Hopefully he's going to come and do a little reading from it as well. And apparently there's like going to be some Irish band on as well, like an acoustic Irish band, but that comes on much later. And by that point, hopefully I'll be having a drink at the bar. So yeah, that's on the 24th of November. But obviously it's in Knaresborough, so if it's far for everybody, don't come in. I think Donna might be coming. If it's not too far, come along, have a drink. Get yourself a signed copy. That'd be fantastic.
There you go. Lots of people have said thank you. Donna says people will love it. Where's have faith? Laura said thanks. Great chat. We'll be exploring later. And Donna said that I asked if anything good had happened this week, and her answer would now be this.
Yeah, no, she warned me that she might not be able to come, but now it looks like she can come, so it'll be fantastic. And yeah. So if anyone from this group comes, of course, you get a free signed copy. Even you, Donna, I'll give you a signed copy.
And then all that's left to say is thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No problem at all. We really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Anytime. And so.